Welcome, everybody, to Eve Echoes. I'm Scarlet Begonia, and thank you for partaking with me in my adventures through New Eden. Now, today I will be talking about Armor Link modules. What are they? What do they do? What don't they do? What changes have been made to them? And how to build a ship to run with an Armor Guardian. Now, the two new attributes that you see here are Armor Resistance and Warp Jammer Strength. The armor resistance is actually that. It will give you a bonus to armor resistance now just for having it activated. That is new. It didn't used to be that way. Shields had their shield resistances dropped drastically, and armor resistance was granted an actual sizable armor resistance to theirs. The warp jammer strength just means that you cannot initiate warp while this thing is running. That's all that means. It used to be you could initiate warp and it would turn off once you started warping, but now you can't even warp at all. Now, as you saw the fitting, my Balgorn is completely glass cannon, no defense, other than the one armor repairer. And that's how all of the ships are built. And even the Nestor has the bare minimum of... The Nestor is running 2 reds and a yellow for its defense, with obviously the armor Link module, which gives it an additional. And once the yellow balances for the laser damage, it's getting 88% EM and 85 or 84% thermal resistances, which is plenty for this zone. Now, I always felt that if I had to switch to an Armor Guardian, I would always have to increase the defense on my ships running with the Guardian, just because you do take damage. And I just didn't understand how little you could really reduce it down to. So when I was making a video of this before, I realized I should just do the math because that's kind of my thing. And so I did. And these are the numbers that I used, and this is the results that I got. Now, obviously, this is not a life or death situation, so I rounded off most numbers. So the numbers that I used are that laser ships are shooting me with 65% of their damage being EM damage and 35% of their damage being thermal damage. And I understand that those numbers aren't perfect, but they are very close. And that the base armor resistance to EM damage on armor tanked ships is 50%, and the base thermal resistance on armor tanked ships is 35%. So those are the numbers I use for my calculations. Now, because I hate saying the word repairer over and over again, I'm just going to call them reps. So if you run 3 large group reps in your mid slots on your Nestor, you could do away with having a rep on each one of your ships. But honestly, I don't feel that's a wasted slot to have a rep in my ships, and it doesn't really cost me anything to use them if I build with at least one Nosferatu. So I just run the reps, and it's no big deal. But you do have to remember to turn them on. As you can see, the Macarial is starting to take damage, and I just... There, you can see I put it on. You do have to remember to actually turn them on, because otherwise they're not going to do much. And I do probably have at least one group booster running. I could see it pulsing once in a while. So I have one of the group boosters. There it goes. Running on my Armor Guardian ship. That was a long tangent. I don't know what the point of that story was. And then they lived happily ever after. So we move on to the next story, and basically, if you are running in a fleet and you know that your fleet has, in your squad, I should say, if you have your squad and you have an Armor Guardian that you know has an 80% transference, which is the standard for battle cruisers and up as far as Armor Guardians roll, I guess, then what are the numbers for your incoming damage? And I'll tell them now. Now, before I give the actual numbers, how do Armor Guardians work really quickly? First of all, they only protect armor. They do not protect your shields, and they do not protect your hull. So when you get shot, your resistances will first come into play, and then as you actually apply the damage and go to subtract the health from your armor health pool, the Armor Guardian will first take 80% of that damage And so you will only be applying 20% of the damage that actually makes it through your resistances. So how much is that? How much is that? For every 100 points of damage that you get shot, you're actually only applying. This is for a ship that's just a hull. It has no mods. It has nothing. It's just sitting there naked with nothing. How much out of every 100, you're only applying 11.05 damage. Now, if you add one red armor hardener, your resistances will go from 50 and 35 up to 65 and 55. Now, what will your damage be at that point? At that point, for every 100 points of damage that you apply to your armor, you will be subtracting 7.7 damage in actuality. And if you go one farther to another red armor hardener, you will be doing 5.76 damage per 100 damage. So you can see as you add hardeners, you're going from 11 to, I'm just going to round it off from 11, 8, and 6. So you're going from 11 to 8 for every 100. So yeah, it is a 3% difference. And to tell you the truth, if you're not sure, equip the red hardener, but don't turn it on, just to see if your ship can handle it. And if you find that you need that red hardener, go ahead and put it on. But if not, go ahead and swap that out for the next time you're running, or go dock up and get that off your ship. So here it is, Armor Guardian versus Shield Guardian. Which should you choose? And I wish there was a simple answer to that. For me, it's going to be, which one of them can you get more damage out of while still protecting everybody in your, that you want to protect? And in this case, the Nestor is going to far outperform the Nightmare as far as DPS is concerned. I have maximum laser skills and an offense built Nightmare, but I still need a minimum amount of defense because it is a shield tank ship. I need to plug the EM hole. Like there's just things that I need to put on my ship, otherwise my Nightmare will crumble. And my Nestor really doesn't need that. It is very sturdy with just the basics, pretty much pure offense build, which is a little bit of defense. Well, folks, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do that thing you do.